Well, let's start with the market action where positive global cues have helped the bulls regain some lost ground. The Sensex gaining nearly 1,300 points and the Nifty added 400 points today. The Nifty is now closer to the 17,300 mark. Mid-caps faring even better with the index rallying more than 3%. Financials also today saw a rebound, so ending in the green. Remember, tomorrow is a market holiday on account of Dussehra, so it is a truncated week for our markets. But global cues at this point in time suggest a strong rebound there as well. In the money market, the rupee gaining more than 30 paise against the dollar. The Indian currency remains above the 81 mark. The greenback did weaken against most currencies today after a strong run-up in the last few weeks. So 81.52, that is the dollar rupee for you. And crude oil prices rising once again. Both Brent and NYMEX are up as OPEC nations consider another cut to production on Wednesday. OPEC will mull cutting output by 1 million barrels a day, and this is driving oil prices higher across the world. India's trade deficit in September has marginally eased to around $27 billion from nearly $28 billion in the previous month. However, the September trade deficit is almost 90% higher as compared to last year. Exports have contracted by 3.5% year-on-year to $33 billion. Imports have grown by more than 5% year-on-year to $59 billion. And staying with trade, after the government hiked the import duty on platinum from 10.7% to 15.4%, sources say the move is aimed at curbing the illegal imports of gold in the garb of platinum. We learned the Customs Department found several cases where platinum alloys with just 4% platinum and breast gold were being cleared at the reduced import duty of 11%. So, what do the markets make of the current state of the economy? CNBC-TV18 polled top fund managers after the Reserve Bank's rate hike came in on Friday. 94% of the fund managers that have been polled by CNBC-TV18 expect another hike in December and the repo rate to peak by March next year. Prashant Nair is here with the details. Prashant.
Well, the big question, which is very relevant here in India and globally as well, is where will central bank policy rates, RBI in our case, and globally, where will they settle at? How high is high enough? We conducted a poll of debt fund managers and experts, which threw up some interesting insights. Well, first, the question that we asked them was, where do they see repo rate settling by December? Almost 94% of them expect the Reserve Bank of India to hike the repo rate in its next policy meeting in December. Also, over 80% now expect a hike of between 35 to 50 basis points. Most of them also see repo rate peaking at between 6.25 to 6.5%. 50% of the respondents see the repo rate peaking by March of 2023. Next, about 69% see the RBI changing its stance to neutral in February next year. Interestingly, most experts don't see the 10-year government securities yield rising beyond 7.5%, which should come as a relief to equity fund managers as well. The yield which is polled is not much higher than where we are right now. Even on the currency, the rupee, the dollar rupee, despite the recent scare, a majority don't see it going past 83 to a dollar, not much by way of depreciation from here. Despite the relative stability that we've seen here in India amidst the global turmoil, market participants do tell us, though, that they will continue to closely watch geopolitics, global sticky inflation, and, God forbid, a financial accident, which, if it were to come to pass, could throw things into disarray.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That is the CNBC-TV18 poll of fund managers on where they expect rates and the rupee over the next few months. Now, K.K. Mistry, the CEO of HDFC, says the toughest of rate hikes in frequency as well as in magnitude is perhaps behind us. However, he also added that the tightening cycle may continue for more time.
When Fed increases rates, then it puts some degree of pressure on the rupee, on the currency. And if the rupee depreciates, then it starts putting indirectly pressure on inflation because oil prices, the cost of imports becomes higher because you're paying in rupees for what you're importing. So it's a difficult situation for RBI to handle. Till such time as Fed remains aggressive, we might see some more rate hikes in India also. Though I don't believe that the rate hikes going forward will be that many or that sharp incrementally.
Well, that's Keki Mystery on rates. And staying with rates, the United Nations body has warned that a drive by central banks of richer nations to hike interest rates in response to soaring prices is, and I quote, an imprudent gamble that could dangerously backfire. The report, which has been prepared by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, suggests that a course correction is needed to prevent a cascading series of debt, health and climate emergencies for poorer countries. Now, the Competition Commission of India has approved the $10 billion merger between Zee Entertainment and Sony, but with certain modifications. The CCI had flagged potential abuse of market dominance and monopolistic pricing. Zee had proposed to shut down some general entertainment channels to get the CCI's approval. Shilpa Ranipeta is here with the details. Much awaited, Shilpa, finally going through, CCI clearing the deal, but with modifications.
You're absolutely right. After several roadblocks, the $10 billion Zee-Sony merger has received the competition regulator's nod, but with certain modifications. Now, we're given to understand that the regulators also asked both Zee and Sony to ensure misuse of market dominance does not happen. Reuters reported, remember, on September 1st that CCI had found that the merger will potentially hurt competition by having unparalleled bargaining power because it will create an entity with over 92 channels in the country. Now, currently, Zee and Sony have less than about 40% viewership as a combined entity across genres, but a 50% plus share in the movie genre. Now, following this, reports also suggested that both the channels had offered fresh concessions to the regulator, which also included a proposal to shut down a major entertainment channel. Some reported that this could be Zee's Marathi channel. Now, remember, this merger was first announced in September last year, where Sony would hold about a 50.86% in the merged entity, and the promoters of Zee would hold about 3.99%, and other Zee shareholders about 45.15%. Now, a formal order from CCI is awaited, along with the details of what these modifications are. That's what we'll be watching out for. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, appreciate you joining us. So that is the big merger that now gets the green flag from the CCI, but with modifications. September, a sluggish month for Indian FMCG companies, with sales declining by nearly 10% versus August, according to retail analytics firm Bizom. Cautious stocking up by consumers amidst inflation worries and a slowing rural income were reasons for sales slowing down. Speaking of retail sales, according to the Federation of Automobile Dealers Association, total vehicle retail sales have grown by a healthy 11% in September versus last year. Among categories, two-wheeler sales rose 9%, while three-wheeler sales recorded a 72% jump. Meanwhile, passenger vehicle sales were up 10%, commercial vehicle sales up 19%. Auto dealers are optimistic of better sales in this festive season, expect passenger vehicle sales to in fact come in at a decade high. That is the hope. Kia India has recalled over 44,000 Karen units to inspect and fix any potential error in its airbag control module software. The automaker said that any update as needed would be done free of cost. The big corporate story, Reliance Jio will launch beta trials of 5G services in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata starting Wednesday. That is the sharer. Jio has promised to provide 5G coverage across the entire country by December 2023. Ashmit joins us now on what this means, what kind of internet speeds we can expect. Ashmit.
Well, we've been covering the 5G rollout from Saturday from the India Mobile Congress, and there's a lot of excitement. And well, the announcement was made on Saturday for launching 5G by Mukesh Ambani himself, and today we find that it's being implemented. Tomorrow is, of course, the rollout. The beta trial version will be rolled out in 4 cities, to be specific. That's Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, as well as Varanasi. These are the 4 cities that have been picked. What's important to point out is that this will be an invitation-based program, wherein select customers will be invited to be on board for this beta trial version, and then subsequently, gradually, the infrastructure will be built up, and only once there's sufficient infrastructure capable of supporting the network for the entire city will this be made open to all the customers. As far as what the expectation can be, well, 3 things to keep in mind. Number 1, beta trial version of the Jio 5G rollout will offer unlimited 5G data, but what's important is the speed component. The speeds being offered are huge. More than 1 Gbps. That's the speed that Jio hopes to offer, at least as far as this beta trial version is concerned. Another important aspect to keep in mind, Jio is the only player in the market that acquired the 700 megahertz band. That is the band that is critical for carrying for these 5G data. This is critical. It beats through various walls, basements, elevators. Whenever you find some difficulty in terms of connecting, that is where 700 megahertz is often cited as a solution, and that is the one spectrum that is available to Jio. So that will, of course, also be another standout feature. But broadly, This is pretty much in line with the deadline that had been rolled out on Saturday. December 2023 is by when Jio hopes to cover the whole of the country.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. After the mega 5G rollout last week, the government has allocated 26,000 crore rupees to set up 25,000 telecom towers in the country over the next 500 days. The government will utilize the Universal Service Obligation, or the USO fund, for the deployment of these towers. It will use its special purpose vehicle, Bharat Broadband Network Limited, to do the same. The government has simplified the financial eligibility norms of private FM radio stations to allow participation of companies with net worth of 1 crore rupees in the bidding process for category C and D cities. As per the amendment approved by the cabinet, the government has also accepted the long pending demand of the radio industry to remove the 15% national cap on channel holding. Here's another exclusive analysis tonight. Nearly 15% of BSE 500 companies have a foreign currency loan exposure of 3.5 lakh crore rupees. As the Indian rupee weakens against the dollar, chemicals, refineries and healthcare are the most vulnerable sectors with high Forex loan exposure. Sonal Bhutra joins us now with the findings. Sonal.
The weakness in rupee is all one can talk about, and it has broken previous records last week. So my colleague Yusuf and I thought, let's look at some data to focus on which companies have a higher Forex exposure. So 71 companies from BSE 500, and this excludes banks and financials. They have a foreign currency exposure of 3.5 lakh crore rupees and aggregate borrowings of 15.2 lakh crore rupees, out of which 23% is foreign currency loan. This is as per data from Ace Equity. And sectors which have the highest foreign loan exposure are chemicals, refineries and healthcare segment. Breaking it down to individual companies now, the one with the highest percentage exposure to foreign debt. Alkyl Amines, small loan amount, but all of it is in foreign currency. Glenmark Pharma with almost 90% debt in Forex, Shipping Corporation at 100%, Oil India at 85%, Adani Ports as well at 66%. Moving on, UPL at 61.5%, there's Polyplex at 58%, SGVN at 55%, and ONGC at 53%, just to name a few. So it will lead to high interest outgo in case of dollar-denominated loans and will lead to higher expenditure. Important to note, the breakup of the Forex loan in a specific currency is not available. But with some examples, also wanted to point out that a lot of these companies have substantial export revenues as well, thereby negating the impact of higher interest outflow, because dollar strengthening will aid earnings as well for them, right? Now, the revenues in export markets could be a lot more and not necessarily denominated in dollars. So that is something that we need to remember. Alkyl Amines has 23 crore of debt in foreign currency, but 270 crore worth of exports. UPL has 16,000 crore debt in foreign currency, but 36,000 crore in terms of revenues from exports, out of which 7% is from Europe, 37% exposure is to North America. Glenmark Pharma has 3,300 crore of debt that is in foreign currency and 6,700 crore of revenues from exports. Sudarshan Chemicals, that exports to 80 plus countries, has almost 1,000 crore revenues from exports and 480 crore of debt in terms of Forex. Additionally, as per Bloomberg, nearly $11 billion worth of foreign currency notes are getting matured over the next 1 year, while bonds worth $500 million each are maturing in October for NTPC and BPCL. Next year would see bonds of similar values getting matured for Vedanta Resources, IOCL and ONGC Videsh, to name a few here.
All right, Sonal, many thanks for joining us. We will head into a break, but up next, the Election Commission proposes to mandate more disclosures by political parties to explain ways to finance the promises that they make to voters. That and more when we return.